Yes. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. The boys here. ALLEN. What's good?
Oh,
I know you're hyped about this one.
the best division.
You think so?
What else could compete with it? AFC North, maybe?
Maybe the other West Division?
It's intriguing.
There are a lot of question marks, depending on how you feel about...
But it's a one-team race, though. That's the thing. Like, you can't think of a credible challenger. That's the problem. In the West, you can never count out Seattle, and Arizona's potential is high.
Yo, can you believe Russell Wilson has as many MVP votes in his career as I do? Isn't that crazy? Yo, remember when I put him number 3 on the list? And I got some heat for that.
Did you really?
Some people were like, yo, Rodgers and Breeze. I'm like, bro.
Maybe because of longevity, but give it 2-3 years, Russ could surpass him.
Okay, so I think longevity, I'm going to sound a little hypocritical because one of my pro-Eli debates is longevity.
Yeah,
and even Phillip Rivers, too. Mm-hmm. Like, I think a big part of your greatness is how long you've been able to do it. But then again, I also think I don't need to see you for 15 years to put you as one of the greats.
Right.
And I think Russell Wilson is that.
I think people still are stuck up on the fact that they play with such a legendary defense, and you got to ride that for 3 years.
What, 2.5 years?
That defense is a long time. So you came into the league, what, 2012?
2012 was his rookie year.
And
they lost to Atlanta in the playoffs.
Yeah, which is a crazy game.
And then 2013, they win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. 2014, they go back to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I think, all right, 3 years they were the number one defense in football.
That 15th, they lost to when Cam was MVP. That Carolina team when they went down like 28-0, and then they made that roaring comeback. But I don't know. To me, like 2016 was the start of that defense crumbling because I remember Shanahan's Falcons. It's kind of weird to say that, but look, he was the catalyst of that. That's when I thought things were breaking apart. But I don't know, man. People, you see when analysts, they'll give Russ heat. They're like, oh, he doesn't make all the throws. He's very inaccurate. Like, you notice Russell Wilson gets a lot of criticism at least 3-4 years ago. Now I think people respect the greatness because Seattle's defense is pretty below average. But I just remember back in the day, people would never give him his due.
Doug Baldwin, undrafted free agent. Percy Harvin, very talented. At one point, I was saying he's the best offensive weapon I've ever seen.
Somebody sign him, please. He's coming back. His fourth comeback.
He was injured for the majority of his tenure with Seattle and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett, bona fide punt returner / specialist / gadget wide receiver, didn't really find a role, and now he's one of the best deep threats, one of the best combinations between quarterback and wide receiver. Will Disley was a thing last year.
What do we refer Golden Tate as? I guess like a good yak guy.
Okay, fair, very fair. Golden Tate. Yeah. I'll give you Golden Tate.
Jermaine Kearse, very mediocre jump ball receiver.
But what I'm getting at is he's made a lot of people money, a lot of people contracts, a lot of people stars, dude. And I think the one thing with Russell Wilson is he's also played behind a really shitty O-line.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. And I get that he had beast mode coming into his career, and he also had the Legion. But, man, I think Russell Wilson, he might be based off. So one thing that Vegas professional bettors do, and one thing that sports books do, is they take a look at the value of a player in a very unique way in relation to what your backup is. And when Tom Brady and Garoppolo were on the same team, Brady was only like a 4-point value because the drop off from Brady to Garoppolo is like, it's a pretty short margin. Whereas the drop off between Rodgers and hold on, Brett Hundley was like a 12-point swing. There you're like, all right, that's why Rodgers is the most valuable.
Can't stay competitive. Yeah.
Who's the backup in Seattle? Geno Smith? No.
No, he's in LA.
They just brought someone.
Seattle now. I don't know.
They brought someone in. Oh my God, this is gonna upset me.
I was gonna say Charlie Whitehurst.
No. But the drop off.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But what I'm getting at is the drop off between Russell Wilson and the backup is significant. And he is the be all end all of Seattle. And I think he's the only reason why you even consider them a threat to be a playoff team year in, year out. They're the only reason why that team is one of the premier franchises in football since he got there.
It is Geno Smith.
It is Geno Smith, right? big drop off between starter and backup.
You would know.
So I just think that Russell Wilson is still being severely disrespected. Now, I will say this. One big thing that I'm looking at before we get into our whole breakdown of this division is I've told you about the one score game handicap, right?
Yeah. It's been common for years. Like, I remember the Lions were like one of the main teams. I remember they snuck into the playoffs as a 6 seed. A lot of one-score games they won. Then I think they went 4-12 the next year.
It's happened a bunch.
Yeah.
It's happened a bunch. In recent memory, the Chargers in 2018 went 7-1 in one-score games. Last year, they went 4-7.
Right.
You're talking about if those games go the other way, they're a playoff team. So it's something that you can't, no matter how good your quarterback is, you can't expect that to be the case. Bad penalty, bad PI call, dropped pass, a fumble. There's a lot of variables that go into these outcomes of games that you can't bank on Seattle going 10-2 in one-score games like they did last year.
Even though they did have a lot of high-quality wins.
Oh, absolutely. I think they had the best, them and the Niners. You can make a strong case for the two best teams in football.
Yeah.
And I think them two had the best wins. Just like if you look at their regular season wins, like Seattle beat San Fran.
Yeah. You do have to put New Orleans up there, though, because New Orleans beat Seattle. It was Bridgewater's first start in Seattle. Like, Sean Payton managed the game perfectly. I don't think Bridgewater threw a pass more than 15 yards, but hey, they got the job done. They won convincingly, too.
Yeah, they dominated.
New Orleans is year in, year out. It's just when it comes January, close your eyes.
Oh, my God. I'm so upset that we didn't get to see the Saints in a deep playoff run because, again, I thought that they were the better team. Yo, how do you feel about San Fran? Just, do you think, are you off them because of how they lost the Super Bowl and, you know, having a lead and then losing it? Are you?
You can't be off them. They're too young.
You're right. I take that back. Let me rephrase that. How do you feel about Garoppolo?
That's a big
better
concern.
question.
Yeah, especially now that we don't know what Deebo Samuel's status is.
That's right. He got hurt.
Right. He might not be right for a start of season.
And they lose Sanders in the offseason. That was big.
Yeah.
They draft a rookie wide receiver who, you know, let's face it, their history of, remember A.J. Jenkins? Dude.
Dante Pettis now.
Dante Pettis. Yeah. Man, I was holding on to,
He had a good 5-week run.
You know when you're in the sharpshooting in the middle of the ring and then you start crawling for the bottom rope? I was holding on to that Dante Pettis stock for so long.
They get a lot of guys that are known for yak. I know with Ayuk, that's what he's most known for. It's not. I don't think it's the best quality for a receiver. I think for a receiver, you want someone that can create separation consistently or someone that has very good hands. I know for Shannon's offense, you want guys that are great after catch, but it's not the quality I would look for in a receiver.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think Shanahan's offenses is that.
Yeah.
So that's why he looks for those kind of wide receivers.
Especially off play action.
Dude, I mean, you saw it. Taylor Gabriel got paid because of him. Hardy was a guy who would catch 2 for 80 every now and then with the Falcons.
Aldrick Robinson did his thing a little
bit. My God. In the fantasy community, they would call him Lord Aldrick.
Lord Aldrick.
Oh, man. There was one game when he was on the Vikings or
he was on the Vikings last year, I believe.
That 2 years ago, that Thursday night football game against the Rams, he scored 2 touchdowns. They're like,
oh, that's right.
It blew up the whole Thursday night slate. I was like, oh my.
That's what Shannon does, man. Just off play action. If you get guys in space, they do work afterwards. So I can see why they made that pick, but it's just I think the concern is if George Kittle gets banged up, that passing attack is pretty limited. Like we saw that, especially that Monday night game against Seattle, where Garoppolo was just praying for Kenneth Bourne to make a play, and Bourne I think was responsible for 2 to 3 interceptions.
Is it fair to? I feel like Garoppolo is very similar to Cam Newton in the sense where they kind of dropped the ball in a very big spot in the Super Bowl, and then people got soured on them. Like, I think people have...
That's a stretch. People soured on Cam? He was going off MVP year.
But how bad did he play in that Super Bowl against the...
He's going against one of the best defenses ever, behind a sketchy offensive line.
And then Garoppolo last year in the Super Bowl, a lot of missed throws, a lot of just, that one interception that he had where he kind of just floated it. And then also, I want to add this also, staying with the theme of the NFC West, Jared Goff. Dude.
Very similar. That's a comparison.
Yo, no one... You're right. That is a better comparison.
Yeah,
no one had more Jared Goff stock than me. I came out and said after that first year with McVay, I was like, yo, he's a top 7 quarterback in the league. And everyone just ripped me. And then he went on.
Right.
Up until week 13 that year, of course, I was financially invested. Jared Goff was Rivers. Sorry, it was Mahomes, Breeze, Rivers, Goff in the MVP race there, the year that they went to the Super Bowl. And
because he was coming off that Monday night game against Kansas City.
Yeah. And, yo, that's something that I look at. Do you have the balls to go up with a guy that has balls? And, like, when you step off the bus and you just judge a book by its cover and you look at the other quarterback, like, can you look at your guy and be like, yo, you know, he go toe-to-toe with him? That's why I really like Cam. Because Cam, even though he might not be the best quarterback in the league, he carries himself like he is. Jared Goff went toe-to-toe with Pat Mahomes and outdueled him. With Breeze in the Superdome, outdueled him.
Made some tough throws, yeah.
So I was holding on. And, you know, I think Goff, the issue with Goff was a lot of players got paid and their offensive line took a hit. They lost 2 starters on that offensive line. Gurley wasn't the same. And you invest all that capital on the defense and those big contracts. And then before you know it, dude, you take away 2 offensive linemen off any team that is starters, you're gonna get hit.
And Whitworth's almost 40. Yeah, he was getting up there in age. Yeah, I just think the issue with Goff, he's kind of always been a front runner. When he plays from behind, he just starts to struggle. Like, he's someone that if you need him to drop back 40, 45 times, mistakes will be made. So I think that's comparison. I think the issue with Garoppolo is just the fact that it was pretty clear in that Super Bowl, Shanahan was coaching as if he really did not want to put the ball in his hands. Especially, I remember that end of the first half where they had timeouts and Shanahan was very conservative, which you rarely see. And that was a kind of a sign like, okay, they do not trust him.
Dude, how many quarterbacks can play down 14?
You want to name them or?
I'm just asking. Like, how many?
Is it double digit? I guess maybe it's double digits.
No way. Dude, I was going to say like 5.
Really?
I think there's 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that if they're down double digits, you have confidence in them being able to throw from behind. It's Mahomes. It's Wentz. It's Watson. It's Russell Wilson. Let Russ cook. The Seattle Twitter, that's like a hashtag that every Sunday or Monday Night Football, whenever the Seahawks are down like double digits, go to Seahawks Twitter. Like, that's a hashtag that has like 3,000.
They're one of my favorite Twitters, man.
But it's true because you let those guys play from behind. You let them just not think about it. You have to throw. And when a team knows that you need to throw from behind, they prepare for you differently. And I think that those are the kind. There's not many guys. I think those are the guys that can play from behind. I think Big Ben is a guy that can play from behind too.
I think consistently, but I still put guys like Stafford. I'll put Matt Ryan there as well as guys that can play from behind.
Stafford's a good one.
Think about all the comebacks he's had, especially in a sketchy situation.
I got some Stafford questions for when we do the North.
All right.
But last thing I want to ask you about the West before we really dive into it in particular. This has been a division that the last couple of years has represented the Super Bowl. And even if you go back to like 2008, this is a division that, if you look at the landscape of the NFC, dude, Arizona's been to a Super Bowl, the Rams have been to a Super Bowl, the Niners have been to multiple Super Bowls, the Seahawks. Do you feel as if this division still doesn't get maybe the national spotlight that it deserves?
That's a good question.
Because they do play a lot of 4 o'clock games.
Thing is, like, Seattle was on prime time so many times last year, and the Rams is getting their hype. Maybe because look, San Fran, they've had double-digit losses. Like, they've hit some hard times over the past few years.
Hard times, that is.
And Arizona kind of has been in rebuilding mode for a bit. I know Carson Palmer had that one great year, but no, I think this division gets recognition. It's just some teams have really struggled, like San Francisco. Man, they were a disaster for a couple of years from Chip Kelly, and then the first few years with Shannon, and then Arizona, it's been very unstable once Palmer fell off. So, no, I think it gets its due. Maybe this is me, since I covered the division, I don't think the NFC South gets its due. I think that's the division that gets very underappreciated.
I just shot a video. I erased the notes from the whiteboard over there about Cam Newton and how I mentioned that. Like, yo, this is a division in the South. That's really fucking good, dude. Say what you want about Matt Ryan, and people sometimes are on the fence about, not on the fence, but like they either think he's overrated or underrated, whatever. But 10 plus years he's been the starter in Atlanta. They've won playoff games they've been to the playoffs. Tampa Bay has been a dumpster fire. But then you look at the Saints, Hall of Fame head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame home field advantage that you're playing there twice a year. Right. And Cam was able to win multiple divisions. You talk about it all the time. I actually shouted you out in the video how the NFC South was created under this current format in 2002 with these 4 teams. And then it wasn't until Carolina and Cam did you have a division winner win it back-to-back. And then they were the first ones to do it three-peat.
Yeah.
So
it took over a decade.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So that's a very competitive division. And even when Tampa Bay didn't win like many games, you know, the Giants beat them in the playoffs. They were a playoff team. There was that weird Josh Freeman year where they won like 9 games or 10 games.
Yeah, when Raheem Morris was this up-and-coming stud.
Yeah, we were playing ICYP football one time, and we had to put a head coach down. And we didn't have a head coach, so we put Raheem Morris.
Why?
Yeah, Danny was like, "Yo, Raheem Morris." That was the head coach.
Babyface Raheem Morris.
Oh man, but I do think with this division, though, going back to the NFC West, I'm very fascinated. I have a hot take. I've already made an investment. I'm very, very high on the Cardinals. Every year there's a team that makes the leap from non-playoff team to playoff team. And I think it's a perfect segue into my biggest addition. It's Deandre Hopkins.
No, there's no debate.
Like, yo, you get in my opinion, and you know how I feel about Julio. Yeah. I love me some Julio. I got to look into the Atlanta Falcons social media team. I don't know if they follow me. Someone follows me from there because
they're good people.
They did the gradient jerseys and they did Julio and like all kinds. I was like, yo, bro, you're dropping my swag right now. I'm not saying Julio.
They've been doing that since 2011, so I don't know. You got competition.
So you know how I feel about Julio, but I think DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league. And the reason why I think he's the best receiver in the league is because I remember when his quarterback was the Macho Man Tommy Savage. And Brandon Whedon's and Brian Hoyer's of the world. And he was still putting up.
You haven't even mentioned Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler.
I haven't even mentioned Brock Osweiler.
Oh, my God. This is what this dude has been dealing with. You know, and then he gets Watson. He gets a real quarterback. He gets a legitimate game changer of a quarterback. And he really takes, I don't want to say the next step because he was already there. But I think people started saying, you know what? That is the best wide receiver in the league. And now you add him to, I love me some Christian Kirk. I've been a big Christian Kirk guy from the time he was coming out of A&M. Larry Fitzgerald, I think, is perfect for what this team has right now.
Big slot guy.
Yeah, they don't need him to go out and catch 15 passes.
Yeah.
Like
he's essentially Anquan Bolden now. Remember Anquan Bolden went to the Ravens?
That's a tremendous comparison.
Yeah, like he's that at this point. Like, okay, he's not going to stretch the field, but look, 3rd and 6, Fitz is there.
And we talked about it all the time, how one of the really big downsides to the Watson-Hopkins breakup was just how special that relationship was on and off the field. And now you give Kyler Murray, who, man, that's my dark horse pick to win MVP.
That's a good one.
And I liked him better when he was 50-1 odds. Now he's like in the 20s.
Yeah.
A lot of people, some people have been talking them up. But, you know, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, you have DeAndre Hopkins. Kenyon Drake really changed the dynamic over there. Chase Edmonds is not a bad backup running back. Fucking lit the Giants up that game. Lit the Giants. Yeah, he had like 4 touchdowns. Former Fordham guy, too, from the Tri-State. Yeah. And I really like what they're doing. Kingsbury.
Very aggressive. That's what people don't talk about enough. Okay, they got the personnel, but they got the coach. I think no team ran more 4 wide receiver sets than the Cardinals last year. I think it was like 32%, something absurd. So now, instead of, say, a guy like Keyshawn Johnson or Andy Isabella, who I do think Andy Isabella has some promise. He could be a deep threat, someone that could. He
had a really big. He had like an 80-yard catch for a touchdown.
Yeah.
He showed, but you know what? They had a lot of guys on that team, and they couldn't really play everyone. Right. And especially, like, I think Christian Kirk, dude, when Larry Fitzgerald officially retires, you're going to see that guy break like 1,200 yards because he is the prototypical slot wide receiver.
And they're going to throw the ball a lot, and they'll run a lot in no huddle. So that's why I think Murray's MVP case goes higher, just because he's in this offense where it's ultra aggressive and they're going to throw the ball a lot. So I don't think it's a good call. But just putting Hopkins, I just love the potential matchup with him and Jalen Ramsey because they went at it. I know people forget Texans-Jaguar games, understandably so, not two highly regarded teams, but those boys went at it. And now you're going to put them in this division, which I would say is getting more publicity. It's exciting. And I just think with the Cardinals, so obviously Hopkins is the pick. I'm interested to see how Kingsbury moves him around because I don't know. I thought in Houston, it's like, okay, he had his role, but it's just like, okay, you had guys like Fuller and Stills. You had your clear deep threats. Arizona, they don't really have a deep threat. Like Isabella's, okay, maybe an option, but he's still someone that gets maybe like 30% reps per game. I think Hopkins, I'm just excited to see where he can move. Like, who knows? Maybe he'll take some more slot snaps. Could you imagine Hopkins in the slot? He could do some serious damage.
He's gonna have. Oh man, I don't want to sell Fuller short because I think he's awesome, but he barely plays.
He misses about 4 games a year,
and I think you're being polite.
Okay,
because he also misses like. Dude,
per sub games,
yeah.
He'll leave in the second quarter with a hamstring.
Yeah, and then he's out for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
One catch, 18 yards, gets up, limps off the field. But now you got Christian. I really like this offense, man, and I think Kyler Murray, he has a lot of Russell Wilson in him, where I think he can navigate through a bad offensive line. Like you don't want it to be completely terrible,
right.
But I think he's mobile enough where he can make plays with his feet.
He does have a tendency of holding up to the ball very long, and I know it's kind of a thing with young quarterbacks. But Murray took a lot of unnecessary punishment last year, so hopefully he just learns from it. Because that's one thing I kind of when I was watching like that Steelers game in particular, I was just waiting for him to get the ball out. He was just taking punishment, and in this division where it's going to be very competitive, like Arizona's a team that's going to have to score close to 30 points a game. Like this team has high expectations, and you expect them to light it up.
A lot of good defensive lines in that division too. A lot of big names on the defensive lines also. Right. Last thing on Kyler Murray. Second-year quarterbacks. Talk about this all the time. There's another reason why I'm very, very bullish on Kyler Murray. Carson Wentz, year 2, basically the MVP of the league before he gets hurt. Pat Mahomes, year 2, basically the MVP of the league. Well, not basically, one MVP. Lamar Jackson, year 2. There's something about the second-year quarterback lately that has me overly optimistic for the Cardinals.
It's just that division is going to be so competitive. That's why, it wouldn't surprise me if they go 8-8, but it'll be a very nice 8-8. But
yeah, that's the big worry. Yeah. That's the big worry, and that's why I think I'm upset from a betting perspective. I don't like his odds. I think his odds should be higher because of how they're 10-1 to win the division.
Wow.
And they're plus 450 to make the playoffs. Okay. So for you to be an MVP candidate, you have to make the playoffs. So that's why 2 guys that I'm looking at, Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray, have the same odds, roughly anywhere from 18 to 20 to 1 odds. The thing is who do you think is more likely
to make Watson's still up there, but I guess that's just more on his ability.
Right, but do you think Houston's a playoff team just off the top?
No, but I also don't think Watson's going to put up huge numbers given his supporting cast right now. Trying to replace Hopkins. Good luck with that.
Okay, let's move on over to subtraction. For me, I'm going to stay with the theme of wide receiver. We talked about a wide receiver being the addition. I'm going to go with Manny Sanders, bro. I think Manny Sanders leaving the Niners, what he meant to that offense, how that offense elevated. Deebo Samuel kind of fell into his natural position. You talked about how Shanahan really loves his wide receivers, and he kind of fit that mold. We know about Kittle, and he had that big game against the Saints, which ironically enough now he's on the Saints. But also early on, Garoppolo peppered him with 9 to 10 targets, maybe game 1 or 2 when he got there. And I think he meant a lot to Jimmy G. His confidence, I think, it really boosted Jimmy G's confidence when he was just out there because he had that grizzled vet who we talked about it with Darius Slay. Darius Slay was the guy who was on a team which at best was going to win 6 to 7 games. Denver was kind of, whatever. They weren't making any noise. They were trying to figure out who their quarterback was going to be. They brought in Flacco. They drafted Drew Lock. And then before you know it, this guy gets traded and he re-energizes him. It gives him more juice to continue to ball out. So for me, man, I think Manny Sanders is a gigantic loss for the Niners, especially now when you look at Samuel's hurt. We don't know exactly, but he should be back. But still, I just think Sanders.
I know those two games were kind of anomalies, but it's kind of hard to view Sanders as a gigantic loss when you look at the wins against Minnesota and Green Bay in the playoffs, where they essentially ran the ball, 70% of the time. I think Sanders got one target combined in both games. Like, Sanders is a great player, but I think he is someone just replaceable because of just how Shanahan schemes things up, and they do have some budding talent. For me, it's Kori Littleton. The Rams lost a bunch of players. Maybe Dante Fowler could put up there, but I just think Littleton is someone that was really blossoming in 2018. You saw him. He was like one of the X factors going to Super Bowl. I remember he was getting a lot more publicity. But I thought last year, even when the Rams are struggling, he's just someone that can make plays against the run, someone that has a lot of range and coverage. And I know Rams fans were pretty devastated when he was gone, because now it's just like they don't have much at the linebacker core, and just he's someone that can make a lot of plays because you have guys like Aaron Donald eating up space, penetrating. But I don't know, just the Rams, when they made that Jalen Ramsey trade, they pretty much made that decision. Okay, we're going to lose a couple of young players, and Littleton's one of them. So they got losing him and Fowler were big. Clay Matthews as well. I know Clay Matthews is older, but I thought Clay Matthews actually fit in pretty well with the Rams, all things considered. But I'm going Littleton just purely off talent.
Well, he's also, I think, a very important thing to say about Kori Littleton is he's a 2020 NFL linebacker. All three downs, can cover. Wish the Giants would have paid just $6 million more to bring him in instead of a linebacker that should have played in the 80s and Blake Martinez. But let's not turn this into a Giants show.
Yeah,
I agree with you, though. Littleton that's probably the guy I would have guessed for you when you said that it was a Ram. Because Fowler, and I know he's on your team now, and you're going to be keeping a close eye on him.
I wasn't going Gurley.
No. But yeah, Littleton for sure, man. I always like Littleton. I think he really balled out in that, like you said, that 2018 year was like his coming out party.
Right.
Give me your biggest storyline, just as a whole, when you look at this entire NFC West.
This is gonna be very basic, but I'm just looking forward to seeing, can this division just live up to expectations. Like, I know I maybe should be looking at a team, but I'm really excited about all 40 teams. All right, maybe a little less so with the Rams, but look, the Rams still have a lot of star talent. I just want to see, will this be a division similar to last year where week 17 we all know who the division winner is? Like, I want to see these teams be close, duking it out. No one having a division record more than like 4-2. Like, I want to see teams like really battling it. So I think just storyline, seeing, okay, San Francisco getting over the hangover, Seattle, can they still maintain this run where it's just like, all right, Pete Carroll's a great coach, but what is Pete Carroll doing? Like, and then will Arizona live up to these high expectations of their offense? And can the Rams, I don't know if stay afloat's the word, or the term I should say, but will the Rams, because they're pretty much, I don't want to say irrelevant, but no one's really talking about them right now. And, given the star talent they have, it's like they got to at least show something, especially with McVay. McVay was the hottest name 2 years ago. So you got to think McVay now has something to prove. He's making the adjustments. So I just think division, all 40 teams have huge expectations, and I want to see, will come week 17, will we have 2 or 3 teams in the playoffs and duking out for a division?
Have you noticed that the quarterback and the head coach in this division all are like, Seattle has the old heads, like the oldest coach, the oldest quarterback in the division. Then you got a lot of young bucks. Yeah, just coming in. McVay and Goff.
You got one with a model, one with the craziest house, if you look at the draft. And
that porn star house. Yeah. When they showed him at the draft. They're like, what the hell is this guy filming?
And then the other guy's just this mad scientist in Shanahan.
This division, I think my biggest storyline is I want to see which of these quarterbacks is going to be able to sort of hit their ceiling again. Like, I think Russ is the most consistent of the bunch. Kyler Murray, it's not fair to, criticize him yet, because it was his first year. Rookie of the year also kind of emerged towards the tail end of it, especially when Josh Jacobs kind of stopped feeding him the ball and let him rest up, which was a smart thing to do, especially a running back. But, there's a common theme where 2 years ago, everyone's hopping on the Rams, Goff, McVay bandwagon. And then everyone's off it. And then everyone's on Shanahan, Niners, and Jimmy G. I'm not saying everyone's off it. They're still the Vegas favorite to go back to the Super Bowl. But then you got this little new thing. You got this little new side piece in the mix, and Kyler Murray and the Cardinals getting some hype, and Kingsbury. But then just hanging over everyone else is the old heads. It's It's a team that's been there for a decade, making noise, consistent. You know,
Team you can't blow out. That's another thing to say. You cannot put this team away.
Dude, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson are the only two quarterbacks. I think they've lost one game by more than one possession. Right. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, even you look at that playoff game, like Green Bay was handing it to him. Like, Green Bay was totally dominating that game. Fourth quarter, one possession. How? Just Russ being Russ. Let him cook.
There's no one I love to bet on more than Watson and Wilson when they're catching points, because you just know they're never going to be out of it, and they're always going to be in the mix. Dude, one of my favorite regular season football games I've watched in recent memory was the Watson rookie year when the Texans went into Seattle and it was like a shootout. The guy that won the Millie Maker on DraftKings came in first and second. He built the same exact lineup and interchanged the quarterbacks. Watson rookie year going into Seattle. That's a very telling thing for me. When you go into a hostile environment and you just show your grapefruits and you just show people like, yo, this moment isn't too big for me. And I was so high on Watson coming into the NFL because I'm like, dude, this guy played in the national championship game. He played against Alabama. Alabama has first-round pick after first-round pick all over the defense. He's playing NFL caliber teams, and the moment wasn't too big for him. So for him to go for a 4 o'clock, 1 p.m. Pacific time Sunday football game in Seattle, that was a layup for him.
Right. He's as battle-tested as it gets for like a first-round rookie when you think about it. Like, for quarterbacks that come into the league, like, you want to talk about battle-tested. He's been through it all.
So that's my biggest storyline, man. I want to see, like, if
it's hard to pinpoint one team because all 40 teams are interesting. Yeah.
Do you think of all the divisions, this is the one division that whoever wins it wouldn't surprise you? Or would you say
I'd be surprised if the Rams won?
The Rams won? That's what I would say.
They're kind of flawed. Like, you look at the offensive line, defense, it has big names, but there's still some concerns, you know, edge rusher, linebacker especially. So, yeah, I think the Rams would be a little bit surprising. But, look, they still have talent. They still have talent where it's like, okay, they could single-handedly change the game. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey could lock up one side. Cooper Kupp still doing his thing. I think Robert Woods is one of the most underrated players in the league. So they still have plenty of talent. It's just their flaws are pretty clear. So, and they're big ones.
Who's their running back?
Yeah, Cam Akers they drafted. You have still Benny Henderson. No, Darrell Henderson, not Benny.
Yeah.
And I know Malcolm Brown's still flying there. I think McVay learned now. It's just we're just gonna use young running backs. We're not gonna pay a running back ever again after what happened with Gurley.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't.
Yeah,
you definitely shouldn't. Okay, let's end with this. Biggest X factor.
I know we talked about him a lot, but I think it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he take more responsibility? That's the thing. We've kind of seen how he's played. Now I want to see, can he take more of the initiative? Because Shannon, he has that rotation of running backs. You know, there's going to be a lot of games where they're going to be playing with the lead, but in those tough games, because now they're going to be playing first place teams compared to last place last year, which I know is something you always like to highlight. And it's something with this division that we've seen. Last year, the Niners were 7-1 odds to win the division. Them and the Cardinals were the biggest long shots. It's a division where even the Rams, the year that they won the division, they were like 4-1 odds. It's something, and there's always, that's why I think the Cardinals are gaining a lot of momentum, because there's always that team that didn't make the playoffs the year before, like I mentioned in the past, and kind of, sound like a broken record. I think the Cardinals kind of fit that mold. And you're right. Last year, the Niners around this time, they were kind of the darling pick, right? Like, Garoppolo's back from the knee injury. They got countless. I know you picked them, but I don't recall many people talking about them. So I should give myself more credit. You really should. No, I'm telling you, like, when it comes to, like, I don't know, NFC last year weren't many darling picks because everyone kind of knew the NFC as this really good division with a bunch of great teams. Like, I don't know if anyone was talking about, like, one team. Like, all right, if you want to talk about, like, a comeback team, maybe it was Green Bay just because of Rodgers and LaFleur. But still, like, you had Rodgers there, so you just expect. Like, there was really no darling pick because the NFC is just so many good teams. Oh, you know what? I'll give myself. Yeah, dude. No, I thought people. I think maybe San Fran. Okay, 7-8 wins. Just because I know a lot of people were excited about Nick Bosa and bringing in D4. They're looking at that D line. They're like, all right, they're gonna cause some damage, but there's still some uncertainty offensively. Because look, I know Garoppolo had that stretch in 2017, but still was 5 games. Yeah. Like, how much significance? And then coming off an ACL. Right. Also. So I'm just my X factor games against Philly. I know he's played Green Bay and New Orleans already, but still, those games, like, you're going to be playing first-place opponents. Obviously, you're going to play this division twice. all those three teams. There's going to be games where Garoppolo's going to have to take more initiative. He might have to throw 45, 50 times. Can he do it? Because you can't just be riding on 25, 30 attempts a game where Shanahan, 10 of those might be play action or bootleg, whatever it may be. I want to see, can this guy drop back to pass and lead his team to victory when they need it? Besides the Saints game last year, I can't recall a time where Garoppolo really did it.
Yeah.
It's kind of where Garoppolo and Goff, like their shine moments have come against the Saints in New Orleans.
Yeah, against iconic quarterbacks. And even, I would say Goff's shining moment was that Monday Night Football game.
True, yeah, that as well. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, a big win in New Orleans in that NFC title game. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, you're right, actually. Now that I think about it, I remember I was kind of one of the very few people that was on San Fran. It was a question mark, right? You didn't know much about Garoppolo's knee coming back into it. You still just didn't know.
About the receivers? Because everyone was hype about Pettis. We talk about
that's
that.
True. That's true. Yeah. Okay, so for me, I think the biggest X factor, and feel free to tell me that I'm crazy, because I think Isaiah Simmons is the biggest X factor.
Ooh.
And the reason why is, first of all, I was so, I rarely say this about players because the first round is such a crapshoot, right? There's 32 selections. A third of the guys are out of the league or traded by their end of their rookie contract. Yeah. Some of them don't even make it there. A third of the league become Pro Bowlers, all pros. A third of the round, I should say. And then a third is just kind of your
backups, role
Prince
players.
Prince Amukamara.
Yeah.
Right?
He's actually panned out to have a decent career.
Sure, but he's been on 2 teams.
Yeah.
3 teams, actually.
He's with Chicago.
Yeah. But it's just he's those guys where it's he's good. He's fun, he's stable. And I'm if this cup is poker chips, I'm all in on Isaiah Simmons. I think he can have a similar impact on this Cardinals defense like Darius Leonard did with the Colts. His rookie year came in, the Colts, and sure, they had Andrew Luck, but that defense became a very big part of their success. I think that guy is so versatile. Mm-hmm. PFF said he played over 100 snaps at 5 different positions. They've never had a player do that. And not a hot take because he's the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. It's him and Chase Young, but he's my pick to win Rookie of the Year also. I think the only way this guy cannot be an all-pro, maybe not year 1, but be an all-pro caliber player is if he gets hurt. I just think he's that impactful of a guy. And you throw him on a defense that, man, they got some playmakers. Budda Baker.
They're kind of like the Rams. They got names, but they got some flaws.
Yeah. Chan Jones.
Patrick Peterson's still there.
Peterson is still solid. Yeah. I really like this addition of him. So I guess he could be my addition and X Factor. Mm-hmm. Both of my additions and X Factors is on the same team. I'm high on Kyler.
Had a great offseason. Yeah.
I think they've had a fantastic offseason. So I think this is just going to continue, and this is just the introduction of you guys. Just be ready to just hear a lot of Arizona Cardinals love. I think this is a team that can make noise, and I think a big, big part of it is, dude, Isaiah Simmons fell to their lap. There were some reports saying that when they interviewed him, they didn't even want to spend that much time with him because they were like, oh, you're not going to be here. Right. It's the Deion Sanders story. You ever heard that story with the Giants?
No.
Oh, my God, dude. It's an iconic story. Okay. Deion Sanders, the year that he gets drafted, walks into a room. It's like a classroom, and the New York Giants are there. And they ask him to take I should know exactly what it was, but they either give him a survey or not the Wonderlic, but they ask him to do something, and halfway through it, he goes, hey, what pick do you guys have? And the Giants are 8 or 6. He's like, I'll be gone by then. And he just walked out. It's like Isaiah Simmons. They just didn't expect him to be there.
Right.
It's the same shit way back in the day, many, many years ago. Leonard Williams. The Jets didn't even interview him. They didn't.
Right. He was the number one prospect.
He was the number one prospect. And they're like, yo, the pick was in real quick. They didn't even do any research. They're just like, hey, Leonard, did you talk to the Jets? He's like, no, I didn't. Right. I didn't think that it would be.
You get that every now or then.
You do. And I think Isaiah Simmons just fell to their lap. Mm-hmm. And also, you look at this division. Mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson. Best tight end in the game in San Francisco. The way he utilizes the running backs out the backfield. And then the Rams with all this underneath stuff to Cooper and Kupp.
Mm-hmm. Kupp and Woods.
Kupp and Woods. Cooper and Kupp.
And Higbee's came on.
Higbee. Higbee had 4 straight 100-yard games.
Right.
Oh, man. So I'm excited to see Isaiah Simmons on this team.
Right. There's so many different things with this division. I think every time these 4 teams play each other, it's must watch. I think they got a lot of primetime games, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them more flexed up, going into November, December.